Hey gentlefolk, my name is Malte Krug. Welcome back to another episode of All About Keys. In the early 80s, most innovating samplers came from the US, and so in this episode I will present another model of an established American synthesizer company, which needed this machine to be a success to counter losses that have piled up due to some not-so-successful synthesizer models that in recent years aimed at the lower price market. But this unit they wanted to attract the professionals again. It's the Sequential Prophet 2000 12-bit sampler. As always, before we take a look at it, we are going to check out the content of the German's KB-Magazin's November issue of 1985. The colors of this month's cover mirror the season of the year with its focus on brown, yellow and orange. Kinda fits. We have the usual content list and the letters to the editor, which lead into the news of the month. Some late-year product releases coming from Yamaha announcing the Yamaha DX27 and the technically identical DX100, which is just smaller. Here on the right-hand side we'll get a long text about the new Fairlight Series 3. Sampled sounds need storage space, and in this Fairlight of 1985 it's possible to use a hard disk with a massive memory of 60 megabytes. This will give you around 5 minutes of stereo recording. The regular version contains 8 megabytes of RAM memory and can be upgraded to 14. There's a series of synthesis tools like additive synthesis, drawing a waveform and dynamic manipulation of sampled sounds. All this and more bears a hefty price tag, but a state-of-the-art technology that you could have bought for just $40,000 of $1985. But prices could easily rise to $100,000 depending on how much the system got expanded. Later versions could hold more RAM, for example. Just triple these prices if you want to know how those numbers translate into today's dollars. After the weird colored artist feature of last month, we get a double-page photo of Greg Fillinganes holding a Yamaha KX1 remote MIDI keyboard. That thing looks massive compared to the KX5 I have here. The second artist is Ian Cooley, whose most famous work is with Paul Young as MD, keyboardist and composer. Here on this photo we see his live rig. You read about new music on this page, including Sting's first solo album, Dream of the Blue Turtles, which looked like this. On the next page we get a feature about one of Germany's piano building company due to its 150 years anniversary. 4 years after this magazine got published, I started an apprenticeship at this company to learn piano building. Here at the end of the article, after all of the company's history, they mention the problems of the piano market then. And I guess the difficulties finally got to them 4 decades later, because the company unfortunately went bust earlier this year. In microphone practice, we learn details about pressure gradient microphones, including the proximity effects. 2 pages of sound börse with the usual pad sheets sent in by readers with some of their sounds. This time even with sounds for a Moog source and a Sequential Pro 1. The giveaway this month is a compact power mixer from Roland, and it looks pretty handy for a small keyboard rig. The first noteworthy test is about the Kawai EP.12 I mentioned in the news last month. This is an acoustic piano with added MIDI master keyboard functions, not too dissimilar to the concept of Yamaha's CP series, but with the additional MIDI capabilities. In this shape, like the CP60. They mention the EP.308 as the grand piano-like version of this, which resembles a CP70 or 80. Akai made some rack-shaped MIDI peripherals, and here we have a test of 2 of them. First is a MIDI delay, which is not a regular delay with memory slots that can be switched with MIDI program changes, but it takes MIDI notes and sends them back to the instrument after a certain amount of time, and it can do that in different octaves. The other one is the ME20A arpeggiator. This is a pretty versatile unit. Single notes or chords can be put in a sequence of up to 128 steps. It's not possible to sync this thing to anything, so nowadays it would be used as a pattern generator for audio files that then get recorded into a DAW for further pimping. I have one here, but I won't show its functions in this video because the main star eats up a lot of screen time and contains its own arpeggiator. But postponed is not cancelled, so there will be a video with the Akai arpeggiator. Here we have a machine that I have never seen in the wild. The Lin sequencer, which is basically the recording part of the Lin 9000 drum machine / MIDI recorder. It can record into 32 tracks, and they have to explain why that might be handy when there are only 16 MIDI channels available. Recording notes on one track and controllers on another might make life easier when it comes to editing. They really seem to like the logical menus and the overall ease of use of this unit anyway. The price tag in the day has been at around $1,300, almost $4,000 in today's currency. On the right hand side we can see a colored ad for the EMU SP12 I talked about in the last episode. And here we even have more drum computers. Japanese companies seem to like the concept of releasing two almost identical machines, one for the regular sounds of a drum set and the other one for the percussion. Korg did it earlier with the DDM 110 and 220, as you can see in this video up here, and Yamaha will do it soon with the RX21 and the RX21L for Latin. But here we have Roland's offering, the TR707 and its sibling, the TR727. For step recording we have this gridded display that offers a good overview of the 1 bar long patterns, but this also shows that the resolution is pretty coarse with only up to 16th notes. And even when using real-time recording you can't get any finer, so Roland made it possible to combine two patterns for a length of 32 steps. Having individual outputs and a cartridge storage is a plus, especially in a live situation when there's no time for MIDI dumping new songs into the machine, but it's not the cheapest solution. Both machines hold 64 patterns and 4 songs in memory, by the way. For synchronization with other gear, the TRs send out MIDI timecode, DIN sync and a trigger signal all at the same time. Tape sync is also possible when you like to use an audio recorder as master. The Dynacord PDD-14 digital delay offers something that a lot of digital gear lacked. Knobs to turn for editing individual parameters of the program. No climbing through menu trees or up-down buttons. Only for the delay time parameter you will have to use buttons. But for the price of then $600, the tester would have liked to see a button for phase reverse and a bypass switch. More effects coming from Boss. The Micro Studio series contained at that point 5 half-rack sized units. A phaser, a flanger, a compressor limiter, a graphic equalizer and a digital delay. All in all they get attested a good bang for the buck. Meaning good quality for reasonable prices and not only suitable for the home recording enthusiast Boss aimed these at. These effects are the ancestors of Boss's later half-rack units like the SE70 or the VF1. In the technology feature we get the manual for building a DIY audio matrix. These matrices are similar useful as a regular patch bay, which I consider as one of the most important tools in a studio anyway, even nowadays. You won't need these if you don't mind crawling behind your gear every time you need a different connection. Other than on a regular patch bay, on a matrix it's possible to connect more than one input with an output. But then you would need to use plugs with resistors inside for decoupling. The workshops start with more listings of another module for the software sequencer project. The font gets smaller now. In the drum computer workshop we get introduced to swing, but it gets mentioned that some drum computers could lack the necessary dynamics and accents to pull this off properly. The home recording workshop explains how to use overdubbing when recording on multi-track tape recorders to fix mistakes that might have happened during a performance. Punching in and out is part of this technique. In our world of unlimited tracks in today's DAWs, you might never use this. Especially what he describes here at the end, the physical cutting and splicing of tape, most of us will never need again. The other home recording workshop teaches us about an underestimated audio tool, the patch bay. Like I mentioned earlier, I consider this as one of the most useful things in a studio. In addition, we learn about the various balanced and unbalanced connections and their respective plugs. In the synthesizer workshop, they analyze how real brass sounds are produced by the real instruments, so one can better understand how to synthesize them in whatever model of synthesizer. In playing technique, we learn about how to use pitch bend in synthesizer solo lines to achieve more expressive results. David Rosenthal, a former Rainbow keyboarder, starts a series with tips and tricks about using gear and how to make your life easier while performing live. Basic Music Theory this month expands our knowledge about chords with altered varieties and how to write them down in sheet music. And after the flea market closes the magazine, we get another ad from Korg on the back cover. It looks like as if they had a subscription for that page to put their ads on. It's for the SDD-2000 sampling digital delay. Sampling was the biggest thing in those days, and even the rudimentary way it is realized in this unit makes it the main feature in the text. And now we get to the main star of the month. The Sequential Prophet 2000 sampler. In this issue they only published a brief technical description because they were not able to get a unit of this for an extended time and for proper testing. Part 2 follows next month. I'll do the same with my videos about this machine following their example. In Part 1 I will show the basic functionality and play some sounds. Part 2 will contain more details about sampling and sound programming, similar to how I did it with my two-parter about the Ensoniq Mirage. And again, I will use the rec version of this series' second sampler coming from the US. The Prophet 2002 Plus is the latest version of the Prophet 2000 sampler with more sample memory and individual audio outputs. Compared to its just a few months old arrival, the Ensoniq Mirage, its sample resolution is upped to 12 bits, and its memory is 256 kilobytes of RAM. This 2002 Plus should even have 512 kilobytes, I think. Possible sample rates are 16, 32 and 41.6 kHz. When using the highest frequency, this results in about 6 seconds of sampling time in a basic Prophet. There are still a lot of similarities though. Both machines are 8-voice polyphonic, can hold up to 16 samples and organize their sample RAM in 2 halves, so a single sample can't use the full memory. Sounds can be loaded and saved onto the built-in 3.5-inch floppy drive, and other than on the Mirage, it's possible to format your own floppy disks from the get-go, without the need for expensive pre-formatted disks or rebooting a special OS for that. But for starters, you won't need this matrix at all, because the Prophet gives you 12 sounds called presets whenever you switch it on, even without loading anything from a disk. Most of these are nothing to call home about, but these can be used as basis for your own creations. Let's hear. As you can see, the Prophet actually booted really fast. We're in preset mode, the LED is on, and here we got the 12 buttons to get to the 12 presets. I'm using the TS10 to send MIDI. And in this preset, the stack mode is on, so 2 or more voices are actually stacked to get a more fat sound. Stack mode is on, and as you can hear, there's a lot of voice stealing. Oh, this is more how we like it. The stacked sound. This sounds like an E-piano waveform. Yeah, a glimpse of what the filter can do. Somebody sampled the DX7. The DX7 E-piano waveform again. But it's stacked, so no full chords with both hands. Let me turn it off. It sounds a bit thin. And another E-piano. Without stacking, and so it sounds thinner. As I said, nothing to call home about. But how this is handled, this is not too different to the hybrid concept of the Korg TW8000 from the last episode. Some basic waveforms shaped by traditional subtractive synthesis components. I'll tell you more about the Prophet's inner structure in the next episode, when we get to our own sampling and sound design, but today I'll only concentrate on some sounds I got on floppies. And right there started my problem. I only have 3 official sample discs made by Sequential Circuits. The rest in my box are homemade sounds from the previous owner or from some third-party sound design companies, and even those contained a lot of duds. There were many sounds. There are only bare recordings, without making any use of the synthesizer part of the Prophet to shape samples into inspiring and playable sounds. No envelope or LFO use, and barely any dynamic response while playing. I find that really lazy, considering the high prices these discs were sold for in the day by those companies. Just sampling the output of some synthesizer or drum machine with some basic mapping doesn't cut it, in my opinion. Well, enough of the ranting. There'll be more next month. My plan was to show similar sounds to what you could hear in the Mirage videos for you to compare. But due to the aforementioned reasons, it turned out to be somewhat difficult. In the end, after digging through the collection and spending hours with waiting for data to load from the floppies, I managed to find some examples that I liked and consider worthy of getting shown to you. Loading a floppy is easy. Just put it in with the label facing left. While in preset mode, hit this button here. Then you can choose what you want to load. Only one of the halves of the memory or both, and that's what we are going to do now. L just means load all. Unlike in the Mirage, which uses LA as an abbreviation, here LA would mean to load just memory half A from the floppy into memory half A in the Prophet. Guess what LB means? But we want to load all. Execute. And I will edit out the loading times again because they are kind of long, about 40 seconds each. Let me get this out so I can read the label. Pianos in various versions, all based on the same 16 samples. By the way, this is a disc for the expanded version of the Prophet 2000, so this disc won't fit into a regular Prophet 2000 with 256K, but it's just what I have. Well, it's dynamic. I think that the Mirage piano is actually better, although it contains only 8-bit samples, which should be of less fidelity than this stuff, and less samples. Maybe there are some other acoustic piano sounds out there which are better for this machine, but I don't have them, and I'm not sampling my own. So what else do we have? Most of the floppies I have look like this, with a handwritten label, so I don't know where this sound actually comes from. Could be from some company and the previous owner just copied it at the shop. I have no idea. It's dynamic. Oh, sustain is not very realistic. Well, there is still voice stealing happening if you use the pedal, and so it feels a bit stiff. By the way, other than in the Mirage, the Prophet has 2 loops. One is the sustain loop, and the other one is the so-called release loop. And the sustain loop is what we know from the Mirage. You hit a key, and at some point, the loop will start. And if they would have programmed the envelope properly, it would have been gone already, if it mimics an electric piano. The release loop would kick in as soon as I lift the key. Not with this sound, but next time I will show you what you can do with the release loop. like the sound corrector of this, but dynamics are not doing anything. If I hit the sustain panel, and it's gone. Well, guess I'm going to use something else for a Rode sound. And of course, because nobody could afford a Fairlight, these samples were around as well. The most famous Fairlight sample of them all. The sounds I really like, we're going to hear at the end, because I actually found 3 floppies which hold sounds that show off the better fidelity of the higher sample rate of this machine. So this floppy says Choir, original by Music Store, which has been and still is a shop in Cologne. Let's see what we can do with harps. Here in the middle, I really like it. No dynamic at all, so they added another octave. We got the sampled glissando. Up and down. It's not too bad. I recently acquired one of those K1000 series rack units, and they really sound good. Let's see how this holds up against it. Short loops. Yeah, don't hold the note too long. My regular string tester. Dynamics are weirdly programmed. The attack is different from note to note. Yeah, but that is not a problem of the machine. It's the problem of the guy who programmed the sound. Well, let's see. It showed a few errors during loading, but sometimes it just helps to press execute again, and you might be able to actually save your sounds. And now, depending on how they sound like, you might want to save them onto a fresh floppy, which you can, like I said, format now if you don't have any left, without losing anything of the data. Ah, there's the error. There are the sample switches. Oh, that is definitely eardrum piercing. But here you can see how higher the fidelity of this thing is compared to the Mirage. But the programmers didn't do any dynamics, and that's lazy. This is a disc coming from another commercial sound studio, and let's see, it's brasses. Is that just a bad loop or a data fault on the 40 years of floppy? No dynamics, no nothing. Who is so lazy? And dead. Oh. Why is nobody programming velocity into these? That's behavior like from a mellotron. God, who did this? This is boring. And that's from a company, not from the previous owner who might have just recorded stuff from a LP or something. So this is the second one of the official Sequential Prophet 2000 sound discs for the expanded version. As you can see, 12 presets, low strings, left only, map number 3. I'm gonna explain what this means next month. 3 trumpets. High string. Very mellotronic. The mellotron does have more samples though. So before I am completely annoyed from these sounds, I'm gonna play you the sounds I actually like, and they show some of the fidelity this machine is capable of. I like it. It's just a xylophone and it sounds really good. Somebody put some effort into the programming of that simple sound. And then it starts making fun to play. This wouldn't be possible with Mirage. Well, looping this is pretty easy. It's basically a sine wave. There's a marimba as well on this. I didn't notice that on the first try. And guess what? For the final sound. Yeah. It's actually proper modulation for a vibraphone. And the vibraphone has dampers as well. Well, not Lionel Hampton's. No chance to do that with Mirage. I will add a final example of another specialty of the Prophet 2000 that Sequential might have taken over from the earlier 6-track or the multi-track synthesizers. In my collection I found the so-called Songwriter disc, which took advantage of a certain feature called Multimode 4. Each one of the 16 samples inside the Prophet can be addressed with its own MIDI channel. And you can play those samples polyphonically, until you reach the 8 possible voices, of course. The voices will be assigned dynamically to the sounds that need them, turning this into an early multimode sampler. I used the TS10 sequencer to hammer together a short example and will mention some shortcomings that you have to deal with due to the limited processing power of such an old machine. Let's hear the sounds I used from the disc. You can of course do this with whatever sample you like. On track 1, sending on MIDI channel 1, we have the bass drum. On track 2, channel 2, it's, I think, the snare. Sampled with a reverb, very 80-ish. On track 3, some toms I didn't use. And track 4. Synthesizer bass. On track 5, sounds like some muted plugged guitar. Track 6, hi-hat. Track 7, sounds like a synthesizer lead with a bad loop. Track 8, a DX7-ish piano. Those are the sounds that I used, and remember, these are all based on only one sample for the whole keyboard range. In this mode, the Prophet is only responding to MIDI notes. MIDI controllers like volume or pitch band will be ignored, and for that reason it's not possible to premix your sequence at all. Not even the individual outputs are useful when the voices get allocated dynamically to the samples. More about that problem in the next episode. Now you're going to hear the sequence I did with these sounds, but you won't see how I played them because I messed up with the camera, so that footage is gone. But you can hear the result, and which is this. But to get a glimpse of what the Prophet could sound like when mixed with effects, I recorded each track individually into Nuendo and used internal plugins for some pimping. Another thing I got rid of in Nuendo is the empty space at the start of some of the samples that wasn't edited out properly by the creator of this disc. That doesn't feel very tight. And here's my mix coming from Nuendo. As you could see and hear, the quality of available sounds for a certain sampler model is very important. You might think, after what you heard today, that the Prophet 2000 doesn't sound good, but I can assure you that that isn't the case. It just depends on what you feed it with. Ensoniq managed early to come up with a high-class sound library for their Mirage sampler. Not to mention the retail price compared to the competitors' models. Most players only wanted high-class sounds on discs, and didn't sample their own, so they missed most of the fun in my opinion. I don't know how good Sequential's library actually has been, because I wasn't able to lay my hands on it for checking it out. In part 2 of the Prophet 2000 test in next month's issue of the KB-Magazin, the writer mentions that self-sampled sounds in the Prophet sound better than the few official discs they got from Sequential at that point. An experience exactly opposite to when they used the Mirage and its library." End quote. We'll see how far one can get with sampling and creating sounds on the Prophet 2000 in the next episode. Thanks for staying here with me that long and sharing my enthusiasm for vintage hardware tone generators. If you'd like to help this channel grow, please like the video, consider to subscribe and ring the bell. It's all free and you will be notified as soon as I will drop a new episode on All About Keys.